What I'm about to tell you today, if you truly understand it, it will completely change the way you think.
Here's something most people never stop to consider about being really intelligent. Most people assume it makes life easier, and in some ways, it does. But here's the part nobody talks about for a lot of highly intelligent people. The very thing that gives them an edge in thinking also creates a unique kind of quiet suffering that most people around them never quite understand. Today, we're going to explore something that cognitive psychologists have been studying for decades: the hidden psychological struggles that come specifically with high intelligence. Not as a complaint, and not as a badge of honor, just as a genuine, honest look at what it actually feels like to have a mind that works differently. Struggle 1, the curse of overthinking. Here's something interesting. You might not realize the same neural pathways that allow a highly intelligent person to analyze a complex problem deeply are the exact same pathways that keep them up at 2 a.m., replaying a conversation from 3 days ago. Research in cognitive neuroscience suggests that people with higher intellectual capacity tend to have more active default mode networks, the part of the brain responsible for self-reflection and mental simulation. In simple terms, their brains don't switch off easily. What looks like overthinking from the outside is actually a mind that is constantly running simulations, questioning assumptions, and searching for patterns, even when there's nothing left to solve. Struggle 2, difficulty finding people who truly get them. This one is subtle, but it runs deep. Highly intelligent individuals often find social connection genuinely difficult, not because they lack empathy or social skills, but because meaningful conversation is rare for them. When your mind naturally operates at a level where you're curious about consciousness, systemic patterns, or why people behave the way they do, small talk can feel almost painful. Psychologist Lita Hollingworth, one of the earliest researchers on giftedness, noted that profoundly intelligent individuals often struggle with what she called the problem of communication, the gap between what they think and what most conversations allow them to explore. The result? A subtle but persistent loneliness, even in a room full of people. Struggle 3, the paradox of high expectations and self-doubt. Consider this for a moment. Many high IQ individuals are simultaneously their own harshest critics and their own biggest sources of pressure. Psychologists call this imposter syndrome, but for intelligent people, it often runs deeper because they can see every flaw in their own thinking, every gap in their knowledge, every possible way they could be wrong. They sometimes doubt themselves more than people with less self-awareness do. Intelligence, paradoxically, can make you more aware of what you don't know, and that awareness, while intellectually honest, can quietly erode confidence. Struggle 4, boredom, but not ordinary boredom. Here's where it gets psychologically interesting. Research shows that highly intelligent people require significantly more cognitive stimulation to feel engaged. When that stimulation isn't there, they don't just feel bored, they feel almost restless at a neurological level. Studies on dopamine sensitivity suggest that intelligent individuals may have reward systems that respond less to routine stimulation, meaning ordinary tasks, repetitive environments, or unchallenging work can feel genuinely draining rather than just dull. This is why many brilliant people struggle in conventional systems: school, corporate jobs, rigid routines. Not because they're lazy, but because their brains are literally seeking a level of engagement that those environments don't provide. And here's something worth pausing on for a moment. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Because the patterns we're describing aren't just abstract concepts. They show up quietly in everyday life, in the way someone avoids certain conversations, or feels oddly disconnected, even among friends, or lies awake at night for no clear reason. Struggle 5, perfectionism that feels impossible to escape. Highly intelligent individuals often set internal standards for themselves that are genuinely unrealistic, not because they're arrogant, but because their minds can clearly envision the ideal outcome. And when reality inevitably falls short of that vision, the emotional gap can feel significant. Psychologists describe this as the planning fallacy meets high self-efficacy. The brain is good enough to imagine something brilliant, but execution in the real world always involves friction, limitation, and imperfection. For intelligent people, accepting good enough can be a genuine psychological challenge. Struggle 6, sensitivity to injustice and inconsistency. Many highly intelligent individuals notice hypocrisy, logical inconsistencies, and social injustices with almost uncomfortable clarity. What others might overlook or rationalize, an intelligent mind often can't unsee. This heightened pattern recognition, which is a cognitive strength, can make the world feel frustrating, even exhausting. Research in moral psychology suggests that people with higher reasoning capacity tend to experience stronger emotional reactions to perceived unfairness, precisely because they understand its implications more deeply. Struggle 7, difficulty making decisions. This might be the most surprising one, because you'd assume that being smart makes decision-making easier. But intelligence often does the opposite. It multiplies the variables. A highly intelligent person can see too many outcomes, too many consequences, too many ways a decision could go wrong. Behavioral economists have a term for this: analysis paralysis. The more clearly you can think through a problem, the more options your brain generates, and the harder it becomes to simply choose one path and commit. Struggle 8, a deep, persistent search for meaning. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote that the primary human motivation is not pleasure or power, it's meaning. And for highly intelligent people, this search tends to be especially intense. Routine life, surface-level success, or conventional definitions of happiness often feel hollow. Intelligent individuals tend to ask why at a level that most social frameworks don't easily answer. This can lead to genuine existential restlessness, a feeling that something important is always just slightly out of reach. Struggle 9, the loneliness of being misunderstood. Not dramatic loneliness, quiet loneliness. The kind where you're perfectly capable of functioning socially, holding conversations, even making people laugh, but you privately carry thoughts and questions that rarely get to leave your own head. Psychologists studying intellectual giftedness consistently find that this inner isolation is one of the most commonly reported experiences among highly intelligent adults. It's not about superiority, it's simply about the reality that when your mind works differently, finding genuine understanding from others takes real effort. Here's the psychological takeaway from all of this. Intelligence is not a simple advantage. It is a particular way of experiencing the world, one that comes with genuine gifts and genuine costs. The same mind that can solve complex problems is also the mind that can't stop analyzing, can't easily settle, and can't always find the conversation it's looking for. Understanding this doesn't make the struggles disappear, but it does something quietly powerful. It turns confusion into clarity. And for a mind that is always searching for patterns, sometimes the most meaningful pattern to find is the one that finally explains your own experience. And maybe that's enough to finally see yourself clearly, not as too much, not as too little, but as exactly the kind of mind this world has always needed.